Good morning. I am Chris Steyerwalt, and these are your buzz cuts from Fox News First. Off the top, talk about job lock. Hiring slumps again. Boo, boo, January jobs report. A scant 115,000 jobs added to the U.S. economy. That's less than half of what the economy needs to add to keep pace with a growing U.S. population. It's bad. And why is it bad? It's bad because more people continue to leave the workforce. That comes at the same time that the administration is talking about how it's good if people are freed from having to work. So we're getting a real-time debate on a real-time topic. Peters shows when Obama brings the bacon. That's bacon, and you know it's delicious. You know it's delicious. But Congressman Peters is running for the United States Senate. The president is going to be in his home state of Michigan today. And he, unlike other Democrats, is actually showing up to be with the president when he appears at a bill signing at the Michigan State University. Peters is behind in most recent election polling in what is normally a heavily Democratic state. And the Hill surmises that it's to try to increase turnout among African-American voters with whom the president is still very popular. Pryor breaks with Dems on minimum wage. Now, this is a big deal. Mark Pryor, senator from Arkansas, says that he is not behind President Obama's request to increase the federal minimum wage. Pryor, who is heavily patronized by the good people of Walmart, says that he doesn't think that it's time to move the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. This will provide insulation from Republicans on attacks about the minimum wage because they'll just say, I agree with my colleague from Arkansas. Udall on the rocks. Colorado Senator Mark Udall. Whoa. That happened. A new Quinnipiac poll shows him in trouble. Udall previously thought safe. He's shown barely ahead, 2 points ahead. Little-known challengers on the Republican field. This one is going to be in play. And last, but you know definitely not least, and you know about this one, but we would be remiss not to share it. Joe Biden was speaking about the need for infrastructural investment. And he said, if I blindfolded someone, why are you blindfolding people? But whatever. If I blindfolded someone and took him at 2 o'clock in the morning to an airport in Hong Kong and said, where do you think you are? He would again say, why did you blindfold me and take me to an airport, Joe Biden? But no, he'd say, this must be America. It's a modern airport. If I took him blindfolded and took you to LaGuardia Airport in New York, you must think I must be in some third world country. I'm not joking, said Joe Biden, and he wasn't. And neither are we that you would have that already. If you were a subscriber to Fox News First, it's great. Do it. We'll rock your party each morning in your inbox, Internet. So do that, but we're going to do it all right now because it's Power Play.
The report says that in addition to substantially cutting the deficit, in addition to spurring job creation and economic growth in the near term, in addition to ensuring millions of Americans, the Affordable Care Act in later years will provide freedom, choice, and opportunity to Americans that they did not previously have.
And that was White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, a previous press conference talking about the freedom to not work, that Americans, because of Obamacare, will be able not to work, not to seek work, because they'll have health insurance because of the law. This is Power Play. Welcome to the Batcave. It's Friday. That means that we are collecting the week and looking forward to the week ahead. That means we need wise people. We need good counsel. A good place to start for that is our own senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry. Brother Henry, are you out there?
Good to see you. Yeah, I'm there. You know, is there going to be a New York Daily News headline like President Ford? Ford to New York dropped dead? Are we going to end up hearing Biden to New York? You're in a third world country or something?
I just want to know why Biden is blindfolding all these people and taking them to airports. It sounds like
scary.
I haven't even ever thought about that. Yeah, I mean, is this like a rendition thing? I don't know. But my question for you, you led the charge and your peers inside the White House press corps followed suit in questioning the administration about their take on the CBO report that found that Obamacare would cause people to leave the workforce. We see a jobs report. We see a jobs report today, Brother Henry, that suggests that people are leaving the workforce. That in fact the workforce is shrinking.
It's been shrinking. It's been shrinking for a long time. I think the positive they would try to take out of this is that the labor participation rate actually went up slightly in January. I think it was 0.2%, but obviously in the grand scheme of the economy, that is paltry, that is small, that is not going to make a difference. And so the bottom line is they're going to try to tout these numbers and say, look, and there is some positives. Manufacturing jobs are up a little bit. Overall, you've got more than 100,000 jobs created. At least it's not where we were a couple of years ago, where you're going backwards, you're losing jobs. There was that 1 month a couple of years ago where there were no new jobs created, but that's a low bar. And
better
as you
than
say,
nothing.
If you create over 100,000 jobs, you're still far below what you need to keep up with the U.S. population. So look, this is of a piece with the whole healthcare fight, because the administration is making the claim that not just healthcare costs are coming down, but this is going to help the economy long term because people have health security, and that may be a positive for some people. But the argument that was going on this week was when Jason Furman talked about this CBO report that said that work will be discouraged for some people. He used the example of somebody who was working 60 hours a week without health care insurance, who might go down to a part-time job, 35 hours, say, he said, with health insurance this time. And he was telling us this was a great thing in the White House briefing room. And I just asked him straightforwardly, isn't that person who's going from 60 hours to 35 hours a week making a lot less money? Isn't that less money they're going to have to spend at restaurants and retail stores, and less money they have to put away for college for their kids? And at first he said, well, that's a hypothetical. And I said, right. It was your hypothetical. It was the example you cited. And so anyway, I think the bottom line is, after the CBO report and all the other back and forth on healthcare this week, now this jobs report, the bottom line is the economy is still running in place in some ways. There's a recovery, but it's a very weak recovery. So the president will be in Michigan today talking up the economy, but he's much the same place he's been the last 5 years. Sure, things are better than the Great Recession, but they're nowhere where even he predicted they'd be, or where any economist will tell you we need to be. And in terms of healthcare, it's still a very shaky factor for him when you talk about Mark Udall, Mark Pryor, all these vulnerable Democrats in the Senate. Healthcare, jobs will be big issues, and the president's still struggling on those, Chris.
Cheerfully skeptical, unstinting in his excellence, Ed Henry. We thank you for making time for us today. Have a great Friday.
Anytime.
You know who I am glad has not been freed from work? And I hope that not for a long time he will not be freed from work, is Matthew Continetti. He is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Do you guys do you have a definite article? Are you the Free Beacon, or do you just
We are the Washington Free Beacon.
Okay,
so Free Beacon.
Well, that's okay, but there's been
Beacon.
There's been an aggressive dropping of these out there, and
I love the definite article.
Yeah, it's definite.
I'm a
It's
major
the Free
supporter.
Beacon. Yeah, come on.
You can also
suckers.
call us Free Bacon.
Yeah, you can.
People do that.
I've seen that, and I want to tell you this: your Twitter followers will go way up if you just make the switch.
We
and
were
just go
thinking
with
about
Free
it.
Bacon, or have an account that's just the Free Bacon.
We
account.
wanted to give a bacon giveaway. Maybe it's time to bring that back.
I'm kind of into that, and
literally provide people with free bacon.
Free bacon, bringing home the bacon. Now, speaking of bringing home the bacon, Democrats at the beginning, when the CBO report came out, blanched because it said the people were losing jobs. And then they said, but wait a minute, the people aren't really losing jobs. What they're doing is choosing not to work.
Right.
And that's good because they'll be freed from having to work. And then Republicans said, wait, what? You think that's good? Shouldn't people work? And we've had an interesting discussion that's still going on about the merits of work versus not work. And there's the economic one that Ed Henry talked about, which is it's good for the economy and economic growth. But also there is a cultural argument here about what happens when people don't work.
There's a cultural argument. There's a philosophical argument. I think the Democrats, after being kind of blindsided by the CBO report, Chris, said kind of reverted that old cliche that the best defense is a good offense.
Yeah.
And so what you saw them is kind of spin on a dime and start adopting Republican rhetoric.
Exactly.
Listen to Jake Harney in that clip we played. Freedom, opportunity, choice. Who does that sound like? And of course, it's the freedom to be unemployed.
Right.
It's the freedom to have taxpayers pay for your health care.
Right.
You know, when conservatives talk about job lock, which is real, which is that people don't take another job because they have a good health care plan with the job that they're in, the choice is between two jobs. It's not between a job and not working because you're on Obamacare. So I think this is a winning issue for conservatives and Republicans.
All right, so this jobs report, you can say 0.2% labor force participation rate. You can say whatever. 90,000 people left the workforce.
Right.
That's what the report says. So you got 90,000 people. We continue to have this collapsing workforce. We continue to see things like, and especially among men, and especially among young men, not working. They're not working. They're not going to work. In some cases, as many as 20% of men are not engaged in the workforce. They're out. There are cultural consequences to having men do that, right?
Sure.
For families, for how your culture works, and all of that stuff.
They don't make very good husbands or prospective husbands
if
they're not working.
Yeah.
And so that goes along with the rise of single
That's why you
motherhood
work.
and such in our society. I mean, the job. Two things about the job report. One, look how our expectations have fallen.
Right.
You know, they revised the previous month up 1,000 jobs, and all of a sudden that's a success.
Right.
0.2 increase in the work participation rate. Yay, we're
go.
on the right
Here we
track. It is an age of diminished expectations under this president.
The new normal is stinky. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you know what we're going to do? Matthew's going to stay with us so we can talk about this question. They are talking about a 3-year delay in a key provision of the president's health law, which is the part that bans insurance policies that don't meet Obamacare requirements, that would actually take them past the 2016 election even. Why wait? Why wait, indeed? So we'll talk about that when we come back, so stick around. And that was a long time ago, March of 2009, when President Obama signed into law his signature accomplishment, ObamaCare. This is power play. Now, since then, the law has changed pretty substantially. Mostly through, only through changes the president has enacted all by his lonesome. A new one may be pending, which is causing some consternation in Washington. Matthew Continetti experiences little consternation because he knows what's up at the Washington Free Beacon.
Yes.
I
am not consternated.
He's just blanket agreement. So the point of this law was to insure the uninsured.
Yes.
It was to insure the uninsured. It was to elevate the standards of the insurance that people had, were two main components of this. So we saw in the CBO report that was out this week that after a decade of Obamacare-ness, there will still be more than 30 million people without insurance.
Right.
So we're going to spend $1 trillion. We're going to have rates go up. We're going to disrupt job markets. We're going to change all this stuff. And at the end, something like 1 in 10 Americans will still not have health insurance.
And remember this Wall Street Journal report that came out recently that studied the people who have actually enrolled in the exchanges and found that many of them were the people who had been knocked off their insurance because of Obamacare. So you're basically signing up people who already had health insurance
at the end of a
and
pitchfork,
calling it a success.
Get in there. Oh, we love it. But the other part of this was, I mean, to be fair, that was by design. By design was you immolate what do they call it? A bad apple insurance. Right. You destroy the bad apple insurance. You put the people on the government approved and sometimes subsidized, but government approved plans through Obamacare, and you have paying customers for Obamacare that are subsidizing the non-paying customers, and this was part of the plan. So the president, it is beyond my wildest imaginings, though, that at this point you would say, you know what, we're just going to delay all that, the insurance regulation stuff. We're just going to delay it until 2016. Is that like bananas? Am I crazy?
Well, no, you're not crazy. And the law has changed so much from its initial signing, as you mentioned. Of course, I think one thing that he did do at Congress's behest was, remember, as the law was initially passed, it had that 1099 requirement, which was extremely onerous, that anyone who took 1099 money had to show the IRS that they had health insurance and all that. Congress, both and a Democratic Senate, got rid of that very quickly. As much as Obama might like universal health insurance, he likes power more. Right. And so every single thing he's done to immolate his own law, to take your language there, has been to somehow protect the Democrats' political skin.
Or his own.
Or his own.
Right.
And so now with the another delay in the individual mandate, or rather the continuing of this regulation that allows you to keep your old plan, to take it past 2016, the repercussions for the insurance market.
Right.
I mean, it's almost like, those Jackson Pollock paintings where
right.
you kind of splash paint on the canvas and see what happens. That's where America has entered now with Obamacare.
That's a much more high-tone analogy. We call it here regulatory Thunderdome. And that Master Blaster is always going to win, but we make a lot more Mad Max references here than you do.
That's
at the
fun.
Free
The
Beacon.
high and the low come together.
Come
here
together
on
for
Power Play.
middlebrow. That's what we're going for, is a straight middlebrow situation. But when you want your brow heightened, you should go to the Washington Free Beacon and check it out. And also, by the way, I won't ruin it for you, but Matthew has an awesome column today about how juvenile people are at one very important American newspaper. It's funny, and it will set you off for a good weekend. Matthew, we thank you for making time for us.
Thank you, Chris.
Internet, we have a great panel to talk about Senate races, their experience. They're funny. One of them is quite lovely. We'll do that when we come back, so stick around. And that is someone who is less popular with Kentuckians than Barack Obama. Mitch McConnell. He is the Senate Minority Leader, and a new poll in Kentucky says that Kentuckians aren't super enthused about him. This is Power Play. Hi, Internet. Welcome back. We have a spate of new polling on Senate races, so we will not wait. We will not stint to talk about what's going on. Mostly good news for Republicans, but not uniformly. But uniformly excellent. Uniform excellence stems from Brian Walsh. He is a partner at Singer and Bonji Strategies. He is a former lead spokesman. Were you comms director?
I was.
Of course.
The last two cycles.
Last two cycles, communications director for the National Republican Senatorial Committee. So he knows. Julie Rodzinski knows because she's smart and incisive. She is the president. Whoa, this is new. She is the president of the Comprehensive Communications Group.
It's new. Really?
That's fancy. What's new on my sheets?
Oh, because I've been president of that for like 11 years, 12 years. But yeah.
You're a bigger deal even than I thought. I've been introducing you all this time as a former communications director for John Corzine and Democratic strategist. But
that was a long time ago, my friend. We got to update that resume. Corzine was 3 Corzine scandals ago when I worked for him.
Several rotations, exactly. But Julie, Madam President, I want to brighten your Friday and talk to you about this Kentucky poll that found that Kentuckians think Barack Obama is a terrible president, but they also think that their offerings for United States Senate are even worse. A Kentucky poll that shows that not only Mitch McConnell has a lower job approval rating than the president, but also, my goodness, that he and his likely Democratic opponent, Allison Lundergan Grimes, have terrible favorability ratings. Nobody seems very happy about the offerings in this race.
People in Kentucky are surly, man. What are they all upset about? They're hate everybody.
Not surly.
They hate everybody.
They're ornery. They're ornery. I'll give you that.
It's got to be the bourbon, right? Is McConnell going to win his primary at this rate? I don't even know. It's kind of crazy, right?
He's going to win his primary, right, Brian Walsh? He's got like 20 points on Matt Bevin.
And that's the key point right now. Right. All the attention's been on the primary side right now. He's had over $1 million in negative ads run against him, and Matt Bevin is still can't even crack 20% differential. So it's and that's part of what goes into the general election poll, is that there really hasn't been any attention focused on Grimes and her record, and it's all been on the primary side.
All right. So, but they don't like, and we should point out, Mitch McConnell has won a lot of elections fairly narrowly, and he is he is innovative at winning elections. And if you were going to bet, Julie, you'd still figure that he'll come out of this one okay, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think Allison Grimes is a strong candidate, but look, Mitch McConnell's gotten out of scrapes before, so if I had to bet, I wouldn't bet $1 million. I'd probably bet $1,000 that Mitch McConnell's going to win this election.
Okay, and I don't think Brian's going to take the other side of that action. All right, now, Brian, let me brighten your Friday. I want to share with you a new Quinnipiac University poll. Let's bring it up on the fake television screen. We say Mark Udall, who everybody was sleeping on this race, thought it was a walk-off for Udall, is struggling in every one of these matchups against Republicans. 2 or 3 points against the top tier. And what's remarkable, Brian, I find about this, almost no money has been spent in this race, and almost no one has paid any attention to Mark Udall in Colorado, who was assumed to be safe.
You're exactly right. This is really bad news for the Democrats because the map keeps expanding. They're already defending 6 or 7 seats that Mitt Romney won last year. And Colorado wasn't even among them, nor was Michigan, nor was Iowa. And the map keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is big problems for the DSCC.
All right, Julie, speaking of Michigan, Gary Peters, the Democrat running for Senate in Michigan, is doing something, and you have advised this, and I want to credit you, madam. You have said of Democrats, when it comes to President Obama, don't look like a jerk running away from him. He's the president of your party. Stand in the breach. And Gary Peters today, who's been trailing in polls with Republican Terry Lynn Land in Michigan, is going to appear with the president when he comes to Michigan today.
Look, if I'm President Obama, I go to Detroit and I talk about how I saved the auto industry, and I have the Senate candidate right next to me taking credit for that as well. I mean, it's not because he's the president that they shouldn't run away from him. It's because it's an unsuccessful strategy. The reality is they're going to be tied to him anyway, so you might as well own it. And in
get
a place
the upside.
in a place like Michigan, I actually think Obama is probably helpful, especially with the Democratic base, especially with union workers, of which there are not as many as there used to be, but still a significant amount. And so I think if I were running in Michigan, I would not be running away from this president today.
Now, Michigan is going to be interesting, Brian, because, well, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a heck of a race, and Terry Lynn Land has surprised a lot of people. But it's also going to be interesting because for Democrats, they've got an overlay, and this is true in all of the old Midwest states, the old Northwest states, I mean, which is Pennsylvania, Ohio, these Great Lakes states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, I guess, to some degree. The Pence, I think, is pretty safe. Wisconsin and Michigan, you have Republican governors that came in 2010. And then you have an overlay in some of these states of Senate races that further complicate things. Snyder looks pretty good in Michigan. Pence looks pretty good in Indiana. Kasich is getting safer. But Walker is going to have a fight on his hands in Wisconsin. And it looks like Corbett in Pennsylvania is going to have a pretty hard time.
Absolutely. And look, remember, Republicans can win the Senate without winning Michigan. This adds even more complications.
That's true, sure.
But look, we want to win.
Right.
I think the polls are really bad for the Democrats, but it's forcing the DSCC to spend resources in states like Michigan, states like Colorado that aren't then going to Arkansas, Louisiana, Alaska, North Carolina.
But
now, Georgia, Julie.
Yes.
Yes,
the nuns are back.
I'll take you. Yes, I'll take you where you want to go, which is down to the warm clime of Georgia for Democrats, where Republicans are engaged in what can only be called a brutal garroting of each other in a primary race down there. Paul Brown, a congressman, is giving away AR-15s as part of his fundraising approach. And as you said, Democrats have Sam Nunn's daughter, a mildly moderate Democrat, floating in like a springtime breeze.
Well, here's the beauty of where Democrats have sat for the past few cycles on this issue. The Republicans never miss an opportunity to paraphrase Abba Eban about somebody else back in the day. But he,
nice.
He said it so well about the Palestinians, and in this case, it actually applies to the Republicans.
We don't get a lot of that.
The Republicans nominate unelectable candidates, and this might happen in Georgia. These guys are all trying to out Tea Party each other, and I don't want to get crazy tweets from people who love the Tea Party, because the reality is every time this happens, not every time, but a lot of times this happened. It happened in Nevada with Harry Reid's race, happened in Delaware with the witch, whose name I can't recall right now.
Oh, now.
No, I can't.
Now.
Yeah. But I mean, it happens over. It happens.
Words that hurt.
It happened in Indiana. I mean, it happens over and over and over again, where they nominate Republicans who are simply unelectable to the larger community. And Georgia is an interesting state to me because Georgia, the demographics really are changing. Georgia is becoming a much more strongly minority representative state, which is going to be a problem for Republicans all over the South. But it seems that Georgia is sort of further among that trend among the southern states and other places. And I think slowly but surely within a generation, the South will be competitive again, just demographically, and Georgia's leading the way.
Go ahead. I won't even bother. Brian, just go ahead, real quick.
On the South?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, let's start with Arkansas. Let's start with Louisiana.
Not today.
In the long term, we'll all be dead. But I think that, you're right about Georgia, but I think that there are some interesting demographic trends there with Hispanic immigration. But I think for the vast majority of the South, as we've seen in Texas, for example, new Gallup survey in Texas says that Hispanics are trending more Republican.
Well, look, and that's why I think we need to pass immigration reform this year. I don't know if it'll happen.
Oh, the internet just basically is screaming at you right now.
No, I understand that, but I'm not focused on 2014. I think Republicans are going to have a great year. I'm looking at 2016 and beyond because the demographics are in fact changing.
Brian Walsh wasn't going to let you just drive off into the sunset, internet. He was going to give you that.
Can I just say something?
Last word.
Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia. The South is turning, my friends, and you can put your head in the sand. Oh, I agree. Arkansas and Louisiana. Louisiana.
You can't just be like, oh, those people.
No, not those people, but I'm giving you southern states that were never in the Democratic column, and anybody's worst, Republican worst nightmare, we're going to be in the Democratic column, who are now in the Democratic column. I mean, Barack Obama won North Carolina. He won Virginia twice. Florida, which is, not really a southern state in the demographic sense, but now Georgia.
Julie, we have to let you go, Julie. But I'm going to say something that will upset Charlie Hurt, which is Virginia's not really a southern state anymore. But Julie, I appreciate your time. You are definitely not a southerner, but you are welcome.
I'm not.
You are always welcome down this way.
I might see you next week and live and in person, actually, down there.
All right, there we go. Brian, we thank you for making time for us too. Here's what Havoc 1953 says: bacon. The ancient Greeks called it ambrosia, sacrifice a pig to Zeus and watch him sizzle it up with bacon to make bacon with a lightning bolt. Now the Greeks that'd be pretty cool. That'd be better than that'd be way better than Bacchus. And I don't mean anything about Max. But we've got to go. We'll see you on Monday. And now, as we like to do every day, a word from our friend Charles.
It is a scandal that out of all the 10,000 lawyers who worked in the Department of Justice, they have to pick one who's a contributor to Barack Obama, obviously a partisan, as the one who would lead this investigation, of which the president, who could be a target in some way, has already declared to contain not a smidgen of corruption. That's a farce.